the state, like you're tumbling and you won't slow down. Do you feel like all you do is wait, and you're helpless in the hands of fate, like you lost your way and can't get found? But did you know you shine and I'm broken away? You smile, you're gonna take the fight now. Punch the lights out, 'cause you're a champion. You are. Champion, you are.
Hello, everyone in the AHCA community and abroad. We are so happy that you could make it to join us tonight for our AHCA Leaders Success Club. We are focusing in on the 7 habits of highly effective people, and we are applying it to our work in the cleaning industry with the mission of the AHCA and our growth as individuals, as leaders, as business owners, and spreading awareness to our communities while we serve them. So tonight, I just want to recap with our team here. We have wonderful leaders here who are going through this with us and growing in so many ways. I know that there's a lot of people that have gone through this book before, but this time we are addressing it in a whole new way by applying it to our life as business owners in the cleaning industry. And so I just want to bring us back to last week when we went through habit 1 and 2, and this week we're going to be talking about 3 and 4. So we're going through the habits 2 at a time right now and dedicating time throughout the week to really reflect and figure out ways that we can more effectively build ourselves up and our teams up and our businesses up and move forward in greater and better ways. So last week we talked about habit 1, which is realizing that we are masters of our own life. God gave us a beautiful ability to create our own life. And that comes through recognizing stimulus and response. So that space between stimulus and response to our situations is highly important. And if you haven't listened to the broadcast last week, definitely go back and listen to it because there were some amazing things said about this. And then the other habit that we went over was habit 2, which is envisioning our life, keeping the end in mind. So really figuring out what our purpose is, what our mission is, what life do we want to live, and really picturing that life that we want to live, and then applying what it takes to get there. And thankfully, this book continues to help us really come up with that vision and gives us the tools to know how to break past those barriers that we all have that hold us back. And so I'm really excited about talking about habit 3 and habit 4 and moving forward with some really great nuggets from this book and applying it to our life as cleaning service owners and even solo cleaners. Everybody in this industry has a huge undertaking because our industry has always been seen as low. And we are, with the AHCA, on this mission of raising respect and awareness for what we do. And in order to do that, we really have to apply principles like these to our lives so that we can more effectively spread this mission and do better for ourselves, garner more respect for who we are and what we do, what we accomplish for other people, and know how important that is. So
yeah, and I'm excited about getting started on 3 and 4. I just wanted to just chime in real quick on the end in mind. And I don't know about y'all, but that's something that Grace and I, we think about and we talk about a lot. And it's always changing because it always gets greater and greater, right? So, but it's really important. And why? Because most people overestimate what they can get done in 1 year or 3 years and underestimate what they can get done in 10, 15, 20 years. And so it's important to have that end game. Like, what does it look like
right.
20 years from now, 30 years from now, and have a clear, direct laser point. This is where we're going, and this is how we're going to get there.
Awesome point. Yes. And so with that in mind, the end in mind, I know that we had asked y'all to come up with like some missions, like your mission, your personal mission for tonight. But if we don't have to start there, we can actually post that in the group or whatever, no pressure. But I just want to say that one of the biggest missions, if I could really sum it up for like Kevin and I's mission in one sentence, it would be, we want to empower as many people, including ourselves, but we want to empower. And honestly, empowering other people empowers us. Watching other people succeed empowers us. So we want to empower as many people as we can before we're pushing up flowers. Which we don't plan to push up flowers.
Yeah, we actually don't believe that we're going to die, but that's
a whole nother topic.
For
Come to
another
our
place.
Bible study. Yeah.
We just got life insurance today, so that's kind of weird.
You just got life insurance? Oh no.
We got it today, literally.
Wow. Well, that's a smart move. If for different, you never know what's going to happen.
just in case.
Just in case. Yeah. So let's start with habit 3. And I think that like the few points, I'm going to keep this really short so that we can get to our leaders who might want to talk about nuggets, because it's all about perspective. We all have different perspectives. But basically, in a nutshell, habit 3 is about the 4 quadrants of time spent and really becoming your own leader and deciding like what you need to be spending your time on. And to give a personal example, when Kevin and I were first getting started growing Handmade, there was a time period where we really liked to play Black Ops. We really liked to play Black Ops together. And so we would play Black Ops, and I was starting to get really good. Like, I'm horrible at video games, but I started to get really good. And we had to let that go. We had to let that go. And eventually football went out the window, but that came with the AHCA. Thanks, guys. And so we have to spend our time in what he says is quadrant 2 the most, as much as we can. And it's not just about work and building. It's really about developing plans, developing our relationships, developing our family, and then also our relationships with our teams and our clients, and really coming up with better and better ways of implementing our business for the world around us and for our teams. Win-win. Clients win, teams win. And I have to go to Eric Woodson and Alicia Woodson about Jobber. So Jobber enables you to have more time to focus in that quadrant 2 that we just read about this week, because you're not doing so much of that like busy work of like just trying to like keep up with changes that happen. Changes happen all the time. I don't know about for y'all, but changes happen all the time for us. And we have to move things around and whatnot. And so having basically a brain for your business, doing the what you would call the busy work, the petty busy work really is so important to building a strong empire, because then it gives you more time to figure out how you can serve your team and your clients better, and that will help you prosper in this
Can we just
industry.
briefly recap on what the 4 quadrants are?
Yeah, so the 4 quadrants are urgent and important is quadrant 1. We all have to do that. If it's urgent and it's important, we got to take care of it, right? And then quadrant 2 is urgent and not urgent. I'm sorry, not urgent, but important. And it actually facilitates there to be less time in quadrant 1.
So would you say that quadrant 2 is like spending the time on building your systems and educating yourself and
yeah,
that
and,
kind of thing?
and figuring out the plans and then implementing those plans? Yes, building the systems. And building the systems it could fall under quadrant 3, which is urgent and not important, but it's still urgent to get a system done. And it's very important. So I guess that could be one.
Quadrant 1 was stuff that has to be immediate attention, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Right. So yes. So building your systems would be in quadrant 2. If you don't have systems yet, the more systems that you create, and systems would be like, for example, so we have systems with bringing on clients. So we have copy and paste of our responses to people when they ask for services. They rate their house from 1 to 4. We have pictures for them to figure out that rating. They send us pictures, and then based on those pictures and the different rates that we have for the different levels of service that they will need, then we send them an estimate, and it's all copy and paste, and it's through a digital software. And then once we send that, then we have a copy and paste for like what is sent to them with the estimate, because the program that we use has like a stupid thing that's like, sign this right now. And it's like, no, we don't really want to tell them to sign it if they're not going to agree with it. So we have a copy and paste for that. And it just takes the stress off of you, because you're dealing with a lot of similar circumstances. And that's just one example of systems. And then there's a copy and paste where we send it to like just their email and say, hey, we just sent a service agreement to you with your estimate. If you didn't get it, please let us know. And so they get that email right after we send out the proposal, or around the same time. And those systems are really important. And then they also take the stress off, because it's like, hey, these are the protocols that we have for our company. If you don't like our rates, that's your problem. But go find somebody cheaper or whatever. But we are basing it off of the same thing that we base everybody else's, homes and businesses on. So it just takes the stress and that feeling of imposter syndrome off of you. So, yeah. So building systems isn't urgent necessarily, but it kind of is. Yeah, go ahead.
That's what I was going to ask. So are you saying it's more of a quadrant 1, or the systems are more of a quadrant 2?
I would say systems are more of a quadrant 2, like Kevin was saying.
So like what would classify as a 1?
A 1 would be, let's say, before you build systems, you're putting out ads and you load yourself up with a ton of work, and then you got to hire people, and then you're flushing through a ton of people, and you're like in this mix of trying to keep up with all this busy work of clients and then text not showing up, and that can become, you can create yourself into a quadrant 1 pandemic. Does that make sense?
So, yeah. So for like pretty much right now, like, so just for an example, like we're 2 people short right now with a really, really heavy workload. So us getting someone hired would be considered a quadrant 1, correct? Would you say that would be like a important for me to relate that to quadrant 1?
Yeah, it could be. Yes. So and then there's hiring systems, and then there's dealing with your current client systems. So you might need to let clients go right now and not hire on another body. If you're looking for bodies, then you're staying in that.
Oh no, that's why I go
Yeah.
through bodies. Like I don't hire just anybody. So
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, and we've all been there, and I'm just saying, like, in general, for everybody listening, I'm not saying that you're
yeah,
doing there.
right.
I'm just saying, like, so you don't want to be in a position where you're like, oh gosh, I need to hire, and then you're not raising your rates. You have a lot of like dead weight clients. You would be better off downsizing a little bit and then coming up with systems on hiring that really fit the model that you want to have, and come up with the systems for bringing on the clients and really communicating what they need. And Kevin and I are perfecting our systems, and eventually are going to share it with y'all. And we already have, I mean, like with proposals, all the advice that we're giving, but it's like, so everybody's different too. But yeah, really looking to build something stronger, both on the client end and on the team end. So not taking on dead weight clients, not taking on team members that are just going to cycle through, but downsizing to your most loyal clients, your highest paying clients, and your best team members, and then going from there and building systems before you bring on more work.
Right. I know we're not supposed to talk about the teams, but this is like, I'm just trying to get the quadrants down just so I can start applying them. All right. So like we've been working on, like when you guys have been talking about raising rates, getting rid of dead weight for months. So like Alicia's already got that taken care of. Like pretty much like we don't really have any dead weight clients anymore.
Good.
And as far as our team members go, like we have a solid 4 or 5, but we need a solid 8. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So like we're not really looking, like we don't really need to get rid of anybody, but we do need to find another solid 2 or 3. So that's why I'm trying to, like, to me, I would look at that as being a quadrant 1 for us. Like I see that, like that has to have immediate attention right now until it happens, whether it's a month or 2 from now. You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's like kind of urgent is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, should it be a quadrant 1? Like, would you say that was a quadrant 1?
Yeah. Well,
hire.
I guess it depends on your, like, how much you're charging versus how much you're able to pay. Because here's the thing, how much you're charging is going to affect how much you can pay. And that's something that like our team understands, is like, why are they doing so well? They understand that the better that they do, the more we will be able to pay them, because the more we're going to be able to charge. And that is a cycle that, like, it's like everybody talks about KPIs and everything. And it's like, KPIs don't really matter if you're not charging enough. And then KPIs don't really matter if you're not really leading a team that is self-sufficient and that can really go out there and do the work proficiently and really like deliver, and they're just like constantly getting complaints. And it sounds like your team isn't getting complaints. They're a solid team.
It's the best we've had in years. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good.
We went through a lot.
Yeah. So quadrant 2 would be, I would say, kind of applying the whole idea of keeping the end in mind. And so you are thinking about like, how do I establish like a career employment for my cleaning providers? And that's something that we're starting to talk about. Our team, we call them cleaning providers, professional cleaning providers. And that's a title. And it's a really good one too, because it's so true. They're preventative healthcare providers, right? So they're cleaning providers, just like Kevin was saying, like you have nurses and doctors. Well, cleaners are doing a different kind of work. It's a lot more labor intensive. They're not dealing with someone's actual body, but they are dealing with a person's environment, and they have to do it properly and safely and well. So I would say in quadrant 2, you would be sitting there with Alicia, and you guys are having conversations about like how y'all can move towards charging the rates necessary to pay them well above $20 an hour with full benefits. And that should be your goal. And everybody listening, that should be your goal. And if that's not your goal, then that should be your goal now that you're listening. And so like just hiring on people and just doing what you're doing, it's going to take time, and you will spend a lot of time in quadrant 1. But as you come up with plans while you spend time in quadrant 2, you will be able to work your way out of quadrant 1 more and more. As they become more independent, you're able to pay them more, you're able to give them paid time off and health benefits and all these things. So does that make sense?
Yeah. That's a much bigger picture than what my mind frame was in. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
That's why we're here,
Eric. Right.
Yeah, no, like seriously, Kevin and I understand, like we've been there, and I think it's vital at this point that all of us do this, because this should be a career profession. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. I can guarantee you there's solo cleaners out there in your area that are probably charging more than you guys are. So like, just keep that in mind. There is a lot of potential.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So does anybody else want to chime in?
When they were talking about in the book about the difference between leaders and management, that was 1 and 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think they also talk about it in habit 3 too.
Yeah,
and habit 4. I think it's kind of talked about like sprinkled throughout, because that's what he would do, is go around and help companies lead better instead of just micromanage.
What they said in that management is putting the plan together, and the leaders are part of it is enforcing the plan. I like that part, that when they were talking about that, if you guys remember that.
Yeah, I think so. What I gathered from it was, so the leaders are the ones who actually are supposed to be guiding the plans. So like if a plan's not working, like he was saying, like you're up on a tree, the leader's up on a tree, and you're telling the managers who are sitting there and they're hacking away at the jungle, right, with their machetes, and then they say, "Hey, wrong jungle," right?
Right.
So the leaders are actually supposed to be guiding the management to do the right things. So they actually come up with the plans for the managers.
Oh, I had it backwards then.
Yeah,
The
you had it
management.
backwards.
Yep. Okay. Yep. The management thinks up the plans. The leaders are the ones who gets the plans in action, right?
No, so the management, so the leaders are the ones who guide. So they do get feedback from the management, but the leaders are the ones that say, yes, that will work, implement it. And then the management goes out and implements it.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's kind of like the clean and green. Do y'all remember the clean and green? Father, son, taking care of the front yard, look at the neighbor's house, clean and green, right?
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm talking about? So,
no.
and that kind of,
he doesn't know.
Okay. I think it was in 3 or that between 3 and 4.
Yeah, it was between 3 and 4, I think.
So he's talking to his sons. So it's about stewardship and leadership over management. And so if you think about clean and green and you apply it to our industry, and you can come up with clean and pristine, right? And so that's when we're talking about how we don't want to manage or micromanage our teams. We want to lead our teams. And you hear Grace and I always say, we don't hand our providers, our team members, checklists and say, go over there. And we're not gophers, right? Go for that. Go for this. Do this. Do that.
Oh.
Don't do that. No, you know what I'm saying?
Remember the camera
Remember that?
Analogy where he was saying his daughter was taking pictures and he was teaching her photography or whatever.
Shoot now, shoot now, shoot. No, don't shoot. Don't shoot. Don't. And so that's why Grace and I are always saying, hey, we don't manage or micromanage our team members like that. We say, hey, this is what the end goal looks like, right? Clean and green, clean and pristine. And then these are the protocols. So these are the tools that you have, lawnmower, the hose, the water, whatnot.
Right.
And however you do that is up to you. But here's the PCP course. Here's all the tools and everything that y'all need. And then you go out there and you be a leader and you get the job done as a professional cleaning provider. And so I thought that was a super cool part of what we listened to today, to kind of help everybody understand when Grace and I say, let's not micromanage and control our team members and hand them a shirt and a company car and a clipboard and say, go out there and go for this and go for that and do this and do that and then wipe this and then check the box and because that's why the turnover rates are so high, because
this is
adults don't like to be controlled and told this is what you need to do, right? That's not a professional. If you need to tell somebody, it grabs the the wax paper and it puts a bun down there and it puts a patty in there and it squirts ketchup on there and it wraps it up. And that's what it does. That's not a professional, right? That's a job. That's a entry level job that a child would do to start out. But we're talking about professional cleaners, and as professional cleaners, we're professionals, and so we don't need that kind of micromanagement. And in fact, when we don't micromanage our team members is when they really flourish.
Yeah. So true. So another thing that I wanted to bring up was, and this is really the win-win. So we're moving on to habit 4 and the win-win mindset, because this is, again, it kind of goes back to that self-mastery of, response and stimulus. And then it also goes back to envisioning something greater than where we are right now. And not just for ourselves, but for everyone in our life. So win-win is really about wanting the other person to win and wanting us to win. And then there's different quadrants of the win-win paradigms. And one is win-lose, which is I feel slighted. And if you don't lose, or if you don't lose, then I don't win. And then the other one is I have to lose win. I have to lose in order for you to win. And then the other, the last one is lose, which is we all just lose. And I think most of those people are probably in very sad points in their lives, probably, curled up on their beds. I have felt in lose, like emotionally situations of like everybody's lost, I've lost, everything's horrible. I mean, like I think everybody has experienced.
Well, if you think
that
about
before.
it, if you've got two people that have a win-win, right, and they're let's say playing a game of whatever kind of game, and you got two win-wins, right, and everybody just wants to win or win-lose. I mean, two win-loses, right? Then what happens at the end? And sometimes our kids do it, right? They go, "Oh no, we both won. It's a tie," and so then you have no winners, right? Everybody loses because of that mindset.
Yeah, and this was something that we read or that I listened to again this morning, and it was just like, again, it was like a big like, oh, of course. Well, Stephen Covey, how do I pronounce Covey? Okay, Stephen Covey was helping a big like corporate business that had literally, this man had his team with their faces like put on horses on a racetrack.
I remember that.
Okay. Right? Do y'all remember that?
Yeah.
And they're all supposed to be competing. And this man was telling Stephen, like, hey, everybody's selfish and nobody works together and everybody just cares about themselves. And he's like looking at this like pre-imposed like pictures of his team on race horses, and he has them all competing. And I know like that's been a traditional method in our industry, is in a lot of industries, which is competition instead of teamwork. And so that's really something that when we are building our cleaning services, we need to keep in mind and just allow God to inspire us on how we want to help them become like united as a team. And that's like something that we've been doing, like even with the tips, we like evenly give them all the tips, or where like they're sharing the tips. And then if one person gets a 5-star review, we were giving it just to the individual team members, but something that we're going to be doing now is everybody gets a part of that, because they're all doing they're doing an amazing job. And so some, clients aren't going to tip, some clients aren't going to give 5-star reviews. And if we're in it as a team and we're working together to get whatever needs to get done and, get it done well, then everybody's going to feel inspired to chip in. So, yeah. Don't do competitions with your teams. That's our advice for the night. If you don't take anything from this, that's definitely something that you can take away. So
I had something was the what it to be able to make all these quadrants. Like you have to be able to focus like delegation or saying that quadrants would work right, so you weren't getting burnout on certain. Do you remember all that?
You're breaking up a little bit.
Did anybody else
Oh.
catch everything Jeannie was saying?
So you're talking about the quadrants.
Yes. And what it takes. Why isn't it working? Never mind. Never mind.
Put it in the
No.
chat, Jeannie. Put it in the
put
private
it,
chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
And while we're waiting for Jeannie's question here or point here in the private chat, since we're going back to quadrants, I just wanted to share something with y'all that in our personal experience that we learned, and Grace touched on it earlier, which is quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 is a killer. Like quadrant 4 is if you're sitting in quadrant 4 right now and your business isn't at the level that you would like your business to be, if you're not living in the home that you would like to live in, if you're not living the life that in reality that you want to live in, and if you're spending time in quadrant 4 in virtual reality and video games and focusing on a fake reality, or maybe it's in sports or whatever else, but if you're spending time in quadrant 4 playing a character, a tune in a fake reality and doing that instead of spending time in your own reality right now, you need to make a change in your life right now. Yeah. We had to. I've been there. And so did Major League Baseball went away. NFL went away. Video games went away from me. And guess what happened?
Because of his Nazi wife.
Guess what happened when I spent less time in quadrant 4? This years ago, our business started to soar, and we spent more time in reality, right? Instead of us playing video games with the family and Black Ops and all of a sudden, our life became our video game, right? Like we became our tune, we became our character in our real reality, and we really planted ourselves in that. And that's when our businesses and our lives and our marriage, everything started to soar when we put our focus on reality and what's important and what our end goal is. And we didn't waste any time at all on all the chicken shit and the virtual reality and all this other stuff that doesn't really matter, right? And then when our lives and our businesses become the reality and what we're enjoying doing and what we are enjoying building, it becomes like that, like video game or whatnot. Reality becomes that way. So anyway,
even better.
Jeannie, way better. Jeannie Shees is here, but that's what I wanted to say. If you're spending time in quadrant 4 right now and you're not living the life that you want to live, you gotta get out of quadrant 4 completely. Not just a little bit here, a little bit there, for a certain amount of time. And it may be 2 years, it might be 3 years, it might be 4. You got to just let quadrant 4 go. Yeah. And then quadrant 4, you can dabble in it a little bit more as you start to really.
And you might not even want to, because I don't think, like, we haven't really. It's like we let go of a lot of things, and we can't even watch a movie without like falling asleep now. But instead of quadrant 4, we did things like play pool together, just sit around and talk, have a glass of wine, make plans,
build systems.
And building systems. Like my eyes are burning from building systems. But the part of quadrant 2 that's really great is that he even says recreation. And he doesn't mean recreation like go to bars and like hang out with strangers. He's talking about recreation with the people that matter in your life, that you're building things with. Like so many of you here, I mean, at least Eric Woodson and Alicia Woodson and Jeannie Shees and Justin Shees. Like, instead of watching the football games, I know it sounds like a complete nightmare right now to even suggest it, but like, don't do that anymore. and focus in on what your plans are, what your game plans are. Have fun talking about strategies. You might even argue a little bit. That's okay. You're still building something really in your mind. And this really goes for all of you and with your spouses. Like Ashley, I don't know if you work with your husband or boyfriend. I don't know. Yeah. Go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. We do work together sometimes to relate to the cleaning industry. He will go with me on like major commercial jobs and restaurants and stuff like that. But like your day-to-day houses and things, no, he does not. He actually works in the plants and runs his own business.
Okay.
And then I run my business. And yeah, he only works with me when I need him.
Well, that's fine. But and so that's more like quadrant 1, which is good. But you guys spend together more time in quadrant 2, take away from all the busy work. And that, I hate to say it, is sometimes like even the kids' sports games. You don't have to be at every single one. That's our personal opinion. Like they will not sit there, and if they hold that against you for the rest of your life that you weren't at every single one, but you were there at most of them or even half of them, it's like, hey, you paid for them to do that. You were there to support them. You don't have to spend oodles of time sitting there watching them play a sport that it's like, what are they going to become a pro player? It's like, where's
my kid? That's our dream, but his parent doesn't have that dream.
And see, is that his dream? Maybe it's his dream, but really, that's what matters. Is that his dream?
He's only 8, so he says it is. But girl, that's going to change a million and one times.
It is. Yeah. So what's really going to build him up is to see mom and dad spending time together, building each other up. Yeah, and really coming up with plans to make things more like solid in the long run.
In this book, it does talk about that specifically, making that time with your family. You were just talking about it. And there was the centeredness too, back in the other habits. Are you work centered? Are you, relationship centered, marriage centered? That was in one of the other habits. And that one really got me because I am a very work centered person. I mean, I'll drop everything. I'll drop everything for work. And I need to stop doing that and focusing more on the core of the family, myself. And that's where, like you guys said, everything else will flourish after that, at that point. But yeah, we're all over the place. I mean, I agree with that 100%. I just, every family's different, and football is like a big, huge part of our life.
You're in Texas, of course.
Yeah. So, but yeah, those points in the book are fabulous, though. It does help you. I like when you said at the beginning of the meeting, we all have a different perspective. So you can read this. I can read this. Jeannie, Haley can read this, and we all take something different from the same paragraph in the book. So it's all about perspective, and I need to put things in better perspective. I'm sure we all do. Yeah, spending more time together is a big, big plus.
Yes,
this kind of relates. Stephen Covey said this in the book. To go for, well, that's a different one. I'll say this one first. He was talking about, sorry, when he was talking about having to understand people and to be understood. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's habit 5. So it kind of goes a little bit with this. Instead of dropping everything and just rushing to work or being this centered or being that centered, seeking first to understand, putting those priorities in order. If someone is saying, hey, I need you for this, but you're like, no, I'm centered on this, understand a little bit. To me, I see that as seeking first to understand what they're going through. What can I bring to their table to help them versus just putting all of my own things in the forefront? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Did I say that confusing?
No,
okay.
Absolutely no.
But I think that is a very good point too. And seeking first to understand how your family or your colleagues or whoever it is in your life may be feeling when you're not giving that 100% to that situation or to that relationship. You know, you got to understand that too. Try to see it from their perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that I had written down was empathic listening and leadership. And so in order to really lead people, you need to be able to listen and understand. And I think in a way, it's like with building our businesses, it's kind of like training grounds for our own family. Because families are even harder because they're right there with you. And it's easy to be like, oh, I know you, I know what you're thinking, or I understand how you are, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, maybe you don't really.
There's a part in the book
Yeah.
that he has an example about that with the little boy and this father and stuff.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's like with our business, it's like we can see that more objectively, right? When we're like leading our team, we can step back, have those practice moments where we're really able to sit there and just listen and then ask, like, we have our end in mind in that moment, even if it's for 15, 30 minutes, whatever it is, to understand where they're coming from. And then find that win-win solution. And sometimes we'll understand where people are coming from and we'll say, what did he say? It's win-win or no deal. So sometimes you'll have those employees, you'll have those even managers that you have to say, it's win-win or it's no deal. And you know what? It's not win-win. I recognize that now. I understand you. But you need to go find else to do business with, to work with, because it's no deal anymore, because you want to win and you want me to lose. And that's not like, we need to be in a win-win relationship here. Or you want to win, but you want the employees to lose.
Right.
You don't want them to be paid as much. You want to be paid, that kind of thing. So really finding that, like, that ability to listen and then not be afraid to say goodbye if you have to.
That's it. And that's what he says too. To go for win-win, you not only have to be nice, but you have to be courageous. And that was a quote from Stephen Covey in this book. So yes, that's exactly it. You can't be afraid. Yes, girl.
I like that.
And some of that stuff, can be very scary when you're trying to do those things and you're growing your business. Being courageous can be scary, but that's why if you want that win-win, be nice, be a good human, basically, and then build that courage up and be courageous. Take those steps. Have those difficult conversations with those team members. Have those difficult conversations with those clients. That's where the being courageous comes in relation to us growing our businesses. You have to be willing and confident in having those conversations and taking those steps in your lives. But yes, girl, absolutely. You got to be nice.
I'll practice it. I did a little practice with that today. We had to actually write one of our employees up. And I tried that, tried to ask her certain questions and tried to understand her side, where she was coming, how she was feeling and whatnot. I wasn't very good at it, but I just look at it as a step in the right direction, because the more I do it, obviously, the better I'll get at listening, the better I'll get at understanding, so I was kind of proud of that today.
That is really great. That's good progress. Anytime you can.
I wish it went better, but
sometimes they don't always go in our favor. And, it's funny because I have to coach my husband sometimes on stuff like that too. He works in the plants and he's a boss now. And so he's got guys under him. And he had to write one up, for example, the other day. And he's not used to having conversations. And he doesn't like to tell on people. He doesn't want to feel like he's telling on someone. It's very difficult for him. But like I was telling him, and like I would tell another, you have to be confident in what you're saying, be stern in what you're saying, You need to be compassionate at the same time, because that is another person. They have feelings. So whether they're right or they're wrong, they still have feelings. So you don't want to make it to where there's bad tension every other day that you have to work together, but you still need
That's
to
an art.
Yes, and that can be difficult. So the best advice I've given to him, I think, is take a step back, think about what you want to say in your mind first and how you want to approach the situation. Make sure that you are, your leg is strong, that you're standing on, that you've got reason to, be coming at them with this conversation. And then just do what you got to do. Be confident and courageous. That's what it comes down to. Just being courageous and being confident. Yeah.
Yes, and also I would say, and I think that you are trying to get at this, Ashley and Eric, is like I was saying, when you listen, you can influence.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if they have like what do you call it, a misperception about things, or they have, let's say, like bad habits that are holding them back, we as their leaders can influence them. We listen to, like, let's say they're having babysitting problems. It's like, if they're having babysitting problems, they shouldn't be written up. You know what I mean?
Right.
So really being there as an empathic leader, really listening, seeing where they're coming from. Maybe they're having relationship problems, maybe whatever. I can't think of every example right now, but you guys understand where I'm
But one
going.
of the reasons is what you're saying, right? Like things that would in everyday life that people go through, you have to
Right.
have an understanding of it. But at the same time, you have to also say that even though we understand your situation, your situation can't alter what's going on here. So
Right.
don't.
Right. Or you give them other options. You come up and say, okay, so I know one of our really amazing techs that we have right now, she was having difficulty like with her babysitter and like just like her schedule fitting to the 9 to 5 that we had. And so we said, hey, like, when do you know that you can be there? When do you, like, let's work with your schedule and let's find a solution for this where it's like, we know when to expect that you'll be able to be there and when you know that you can. And so when we did that, now it works. And before, when she was being scheduled at 9 a.m. like everybody else, and everybody has to be on this one thing, and that it just didn't work for her. And it's like, let her go because she can't be on the same schedule as everybody else. We're not a brick and mortar. We have clients all day long, back to back. So we can work around her schedule. And from that, I mean, like, our business has really blossomed because we wanted to work with people's schedules before, but then more like stringent management was brought in, and like all the rules that the whole world tells us that we should have. And then it just like, that's not necessarily, and that's not like the best way we would like really grow a strong team, especially with our, like, it's a service. So there's like 2-hour blocks, there's 3-hour blocks. There's clients that want afternoon cleanings. They don't want morning cleanings. So like really working around our team members' schedules along with our clients' schedules has really worked well for us. Just finding ways to work with them is a really good way to do it.
Yeah, we're pretty good at that.
Good.
You can also find out whether that person is fully committed or not. If you listen to them, have an understanding, even alter things to help them out, and then and the problem still comes on, that's that's also in your favor, like a win-win, right? Like you can tell them like they're not fully committed in this, which doesn't happen all the time, but
Yeah. Yeah. If they're not fully committed, then what do you say, Kevin?
out.
They're not fully out, right?
They have to be
Yeah.
committed.
Yes.
You gotta be a part of the ship.
Right.
Hey, Haley, very clean Yucca Valley. So this win-win, I've been thinking how to apply this with my relationships and business, not just within my team, but with other like businesses, like say in property management. And so it's been like a learning curve. How do we work with these people? And I'm realizing, they don't even really have it together yet. And so
Right.
at first, I kind of wanted to walk away, but I decided, let's try to work this out. And with win-win in mind,
Right.
I had to pause and think to myself, I constructively discuss this with them and find solutions. If they're not going to constructively work with me to find a solution, then this is a lose-lose. And so, and thankfully it's been going in a better direction. I'm learning more of what's holding them up, low staff. And so I learned more about how we're going to work out, and we're going to have a meeting and work together to develop systems for solutions.
Awesome. That is really great. Yeah, and definitely it's so true, Haley. And it's not just with our team members, it's with our clients, whether they're, especially if they're another business that is profiting off of our services in one way or another. There should definitely be a win-win and a transparency there. And, really working together and being clear on what the solutions are. So I remember about that last week, and that's super inspiring that you're working it out with them and it's working. You're actually helping them
Awesome.
make the right.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do all the work for them, but
Yeah.
I'm willing to work it out as long as we can,
Right.
making some
you're
progress.
Sharing your and you're sharing expertise to help them make good decisions to help the win-win happen. So that's really great.
Thank you.
Well, I'm fixing to have to jump off, but there's like a couple of quotes that I wanted to say that he said that I thought were really awesome. So the more we see people in terms of their unseen potential, the more we can use our imagination rather than our memory. You have to read that a couple of times, okay? To like really take that how you're going to take it, but it's really good.
So true.
I can say it again for the people. The more we see people in terms of their unseen potential, the more we can use our imagination rather than our memory. Does anyone like do you get that? Like, does anyone confused? Because to me, that means like, so something that we're used to or something that we're accustomed to or that we just automatically presume, instead of using that part of our brains and the conditioning that we've had all of our lives, use your imagination and see people for that potential that they could be, and use your imagination to try to, I don't know the word I'm looking for, not mold, but teach and help them grow into the maximum potential that they can reach.
Yes. And yes, exactly. And I do understand what you're saying. And it's so true, even with ourselves. But when we're communicating with people, if we treat them how we know their potential can be, then they will naturally
Sorry.
start. No, don't apologize. That was very sweet. So yeah, it's like we know our spouse's bad habits. We know our kids' bad habits. We know our employees' bad habits. We know all of their bad habits. And if we treat them like we're expecting them to continue in those bad habits,
That's what they're going to do.
then yes. But if we treat them like we believe those habits go away, then they will naturally evolve out of that, at least a lot of the time.
That's right.
And
you explain
So
it so
pretty
much
much
better
you're
than I
just-
do. That's it.
what you're saying, you're pretty much just telling them you're better than this. We know you're better than this. Is pretty much the way you're going with that.
Well, you wouldn't say that. I mean, you wouldn't say that. You would more just treat them. Go ahead, Ashley.
No. I'm agreeing with everything that you're saying. She's on point with that, because basically it's like with your kids, for example. They constantly don't pick up their room, for example. So you're just going to expect them to just not pick it up this week. However, I've kind of started implementing some of this stuff with my children, and cleaning her room was one of the things specifically. That's why I'm using it as an example. But I've told her now, instead of just knowing that it's just not going to get done, I've started approaching her differently. I've started using different words. It's all about our approach, the words that we choose to use. You could say the same message to someone and use totally different words, and they're going to take it a different way. Does that make sense? So you're not going to be like, oh, I know you're better than that. I know you can clean your room. You're not necessarily going to say that to them, but you might say, listen, so this week I've got some different expectations for you. I know you can do this. We're going to do this, or, whatever you're going to say. That's not necessarily what I tell my kid, but whatever you're going to say. So it's just about your approach, using different words, thinking about it a little bit before you put it out there, and you'll get different results. Yeah, trying it different way.
You're referring to the story with the guy with his daughter with the car, right? Like they
could be.
In order for them to have the car, they had a few set ground rules,
right?
Right.
In order to have the privilege with the car.
Right. And that's the perspective that you're seeing it in. And so everyone may take it a little differently. That's great. Like, that's a great example of how you could look at that. The other quote really fast before I have to jump off of here with you guys is, it wasn't that one. It was the one where where you're listening. He says something like, you spend so many years learning how to do these different things. Well, how long do we really spend learning how to listen?
Right.
So thinking about that a little bit, and as adults and as grown people and business owners, we really we should all be working on that. I feel like I know I got to listen more. I move too quick. I need to slow it down, take more time to absorb what is coming at you, and listen. Like Grace said, with that empathy, or what did she say? The word
empathic. Yeah.
Empathically listening. Yes. Empathically listening. But I think those are great points. Habit 4 and 5 is so filled with so many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And empathic listening, just to clarify, for people listening, empathic listening is really focusing on trying to understand the other person. And so that will, if you're really trying to understand, let's say your child who's not picking up their room, then you can guide them better in doing so. You can actually give them motivation for doing it. Or and I feel like the daughter with the car is a better example for our experiences with our staff, with our team members, with our cleaning providers on our team. Because it's we're giving you all of these privileges, and we expect you to be a good stewardship privileges. And if you cannot do that, then we are going to take the car or the job away. And you can't really do that with a kid. It's you can't take their bedroom away. But
Right.
Yeah, just having that mentality of, this is what we expect from you upon onboarding. And you aren't a 5-year-old child. And so I'm not going to sit here and raise you right now. I have a family that I have to raise. And so there's only so much that we are going to be able to help you with at this point. And it's not saying that your life is lost. It's just saying we cannot have you servicing our clients or on our team because you're hurting both. And yeah. So, Kevin, you've been
You've been working me all day.
quiet.
Okay, well, I'll say one more then. Since no one else is saying it. I'll say one more quote.
Go ahead.
The key
Ashley.
to valuing differences, yes, the key to valuing differences is to realize that all people see the world not as it is, but as they are.
Right.
So that is also a quote that he says in this book. And if you think about that and absorb that a little bit, it's that it goes back to that lens in the beginning of the book that we all see the world through. They're going to see it through the conditioning that they've had all their lives and things like that. So
Right.
it's just a good way, a good perspective to look at things and to keep in mind when you're having future interactions with your team or with clients, or with just your family. I mean, people are going to see the world not as it is, but as they are. So just remember that.
Right.
Yeah. Not everybody's reading this book, getting this good knowledge. So they're not our level all the time, but it's
Right.
up to us as leaders to remember that and to help them
Right.
maybe grow in their lives as we grow on our own.
Exactly.
Well said.
Thank you, Ashley. That's a great, yes, very well said.
I'm done talking tonight, though, y'all. I'm going to listen to the rest of it, and then I'm going to jump off.
All right. Good night. Well, I think unless anybody else has anything that they want to share, let's wrap this up now. This was a really great meeting, and we're really happy that all of you could make it tonight.
Yes.
Thank you, Kevin and Grace. It's awesome.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
next week, I won't be in my car when it starts. I'll be here present, ready to go.
Sweet, yes.
Yeah, everyone wish my son luck. I have to brag for a second, but they made the Super Bowl. Saturday's the big game.
Awesome.
So
Congrats.
excited. So excited. 8-year-old, 6, 7, and 8-year-old little boys. Mhm.
I
Oh,
coach
it's something.
10-year-olds.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen it all too then. It's so much fun. We enjoy it so much, but we're very excited. So that's why y'all see me in my car and then undressing my kid halfway out of his football pads when the meeting starts.
Hey, there's no lounge tomorrow, right? Grace,
Huh?
is there
Tomorrow?
a lounge tomorrow? Yeah.
We had a lounge last Friday.
Okay.
So it's not going to be until Black Friday, actually, the
Right.
last
I just wanted
Friday.
to make sure. Okay.
Okay.
Also, next week, are we going to have our book club meeting being Thursday on Thanksgiving? Are we still going to do that?
No, I think we should skip that one. Yeah, we should
Okay.
definitely skip that one, just so everybody's going to be with their families and everything. But we'll come together Friday night, and then we'll go
So that means
forward
the
to the
book
next
club
Thursday.
will resume on December 1st. Yes.
Oh
That's
my
a Thursday.
gosh, this year has gone away so fast. Yes, on
Right.
It's
December
fixing to
1st.
be gone. It's fit to be gone.
I know. So
And I haven't even
crazy.
hardly bought Christmas presents yet. That's how behind we are on it. It's bad.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's bad. But it was great to see
That's
all
how
you guys
we
tonight.
are.
Mhm. It was so awesome to see all of y'all tonight. And I look forward to these every week. And so just thanks for sharing, everyone. I like hearing from you guys. And Haley, it's good to see you again. Did you say you're in Yucca Valley? That's California, right? Yeah. I used to live in 29 Palms, which is like 30 minutes north of you.
Yeah, I rarely serve 29 anymore because Yucca and Landers and Joshua Tree keep me pretty busy.
Do you work in Palm Springs too?
Nope, too much wear and tear on the vehicles going down the grade.
It's like an hour drive or so, right? Hour or two drive.
Yes, used to about 10 years ago, but vehicles were burning out too often, and I just figured that's not worth it.
That's cool. That's cool. If y'all don't know, Yucca Valley is in 29 Palms is a military area. So there's military base in 29 Palms. And that's where my first husband was stationed. We lived there for 7 years. So Yucca Valley was like, girl, Haley, y'all had the Walmart. 29 Palms has nothing at all. So you would have to drive 30 minutes south just to get to a Walmart. I mean, that's how bare 29 Palms is. There's nothing
We're
there.
growing though. tourist
are you
attraction.
going? That's really
Big
cool.
time. Joshua Tree National Park.
Yes, the Joshua trees are everywhere. Yeah, that's cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Love to have you guys visit sometime.
Yeah, yeah. I got to go back to California one of these days. But anyways, guys, I'm jumping off. Y'all have a great night. I could talk forever.
Have a good night.
Good night,
right.
Ashley.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, y'all. Well, it was great to see all your faces and have these conversations tonight. And we will see y'all either next Friday or the following Thursday.
Sounds like a plan.
Happy Friday, guys. Have a good
Happy
weekend ahead.
Thanksgiving.
All right, guys. Have a good
Happy
night.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Bye, guys.